So, I think that actually, so I think that I should probably better talk about the. Now I should probably talk about like the European like low density residential theme. And I should point out that while there are some parts of like the NA theme that I like better, I do kind of prefer the European theme. In fact, a lot of times the European theme looks a lot more American than the North American theme, and and that's not and that's really not an exaggeration. So let's start with the smallest European building. You have buildings. So for European theme, for all buildings less than 4 deep, you're going to have basically have. So for the this is a 2x2 European low density building. Level 1 and level 2. Level 1 and level 2 are pretty simple as always. You basically just get sort of a little like set like double-edged roof that's kind of like a set that's sort of set like, and you have just sort of like this little build. You also have this building here, which I think goes in at level 2. If you have a free wide building, then it's going to look like this. You have where you have just sort of like a right angle with which almost looks like just two of those buildings sort of just put together. And this I think kind of works. These two, and I think that this and this building do work pretty well. They don't look really like the sort of ranch houses you see everywhere in like the US. Well, not really, like, but they look close enough. And they do certainly look like sort of things someone would live in. When those houses hit level 3, they're going to look like this. If they're too wide, then they're a 2x2. By 2, then they're not going to have the garage there. If they're at free wide, then you will get like sort of like garage pad. That you will get sort of like the specific for like. We're gonna get like a little bit more space here, a little bit for like the garage pad. I mean the carport. And I like this house very much. It's got 2 stories, not too big. It's basically just what like if you're at the preschoolers to draw a house, you're gonna get something like this. And here I've zoned a whole. Here I basically zoned like a whole suburb, and here I've zoned just a lot of area. Yeah, deliberately trying to like get as much of like the European theme low density with that sort of style, so you can see a bunch of it here. And really, if you look at this does legitimately look a lot more like what you'd expect for like a normal like suburb than just the whole swaths of like that you'd get with like the grid. The annoying when they reach level 5, well, and when these houses reach level 5, they're going to actually get like an attached garage. Let's see if I have any of this. So. Yep. This is the level 5 2x2 European low density. And it looks very, and yeah, this is basically my favorite. This is probably the best house, but here you've got a 3x3. You can see it's like a little bit, see it's like kind of a little longer. And yeah, this is just pretty much the prototypical American home. It's a slightly small American home, but it works. And it's good. So, now let's talk about the ones that are going to spawn if it's like 4 deep or more. First, I just don't, it's still under construction because this is moving real slow. But this is how the 2x2, I mean the 2 wide, 4 to 6 deep is going to look. You have a very specifically S-shaped sort of house. We have, if it seems like if it's level 1, you have sort of an open area in the middle there, and then for like level 2, it appears that sort of changes. Actually, you can still see in there. Although the materials too. You can see that the material does look like it changes a little bit though. Yeah, but that's how it's gonna start. It say it has a modern theme, like the others. It does have sort of a would that be considered a prairie themed house? I don't know. But it does, but I've heard that these are supposed to be like the cheap manufactured home you sort of see for like where it's going to be like subsidized housing, and I can see that. It does have that. I do think that kind of is sort of the modern like style to here is that it looks like that it almost looks in a way that it could be either really fancy or really cheap, and sometimes you just don't want either of those, and it's not like something like a wrecking like cheap, and I don't think it's not like a cheap house in the same way that say the North American trailer homes are, where it's the sort of thing that you can specifically place. And I think, and those kind of, I like those because you can specifically kind of place them to like a sort of you know, you see those, you sort of know these places you'd find those. Whereas with these, I mean, you can recognize why they look that way, but when's the last time you actually saw a house that looked like this? So this is what the European houses look like at level 3. And you can see that these are definitely meant to be like a significant upgrade. You have got a nice porch here, you've got, and for these you actually have like an in-ground pool, which is pretty cool. Yeah, but these I do think look pretty good. They do kind of, yeah, they're a little bit fancy, but I don't know. I think they're not, but I think that a big difference between the EU, that both the EU and NA themes have a very modernist look. The look on the EU ones is almost a little bit more modest. Like it doesn't stand out as, like for most of like the EU homes, they don't stand out anywhere near as much as like the NA homes. And I think that makes them that makes them feel a little bit better. even if they still don't really actually resemble the sort of real styles you'd see. And let's check out the two wide, four or more deep homes. And these are going to be easy to find because I use because I know I zoned a bunch of these.
A driving advisory has been issued for the immediate area due to poor road conditions. Please exercise caution if you must drive, and try to stay off the streets until conditions improve. This has been a local public service announcement.
Level 5, 2 wide European
That
team
was
home.
truly superb.
You have this,
masterful
and yeah, this is I think a very good one. It has a very clean look to it, like the others. You have
and on to our main feature story. The commercial district is booming as the area is attracting more high-end stores.
They definitely do look like this more. They definitely do look kind of fancy.
You can now shop for designer shoes.
They do look a little fancy, but
local
not necessarily expensive
just
or.
That's good for business and good for the community.
Thanks, Jim. We'll be back after.
Yeah. And
this just in from traffic. If you're thinking about hitting the streets, you can expect
you see there's like a few
roads,
differences in like the colors for these.
Good to know, Jim.
They're
Seems
pretty
like
subtle
everyone's in a
differences,
hurry
but
to get
they're
somewhere
there.
fast. It's worth slowing down. And if you can, plan your trip outside the rush.
Yeah. So that's
I'd rather wait an hour in traffic than to ever start thinking about it every time.
So
besides, if I did that, I'd never get anywhere.
Okay. I forgot to mention that you'll have like some versions for both NA and EU theme where you get the sort of building that would spawn on like a 2 wide, and there's a lot that's larger than, and a lot that's not like a 2 wide lot, but yeah, okay. So this is what the free wide 4 or more deep EU theme home looks like. It's always like this it's always going to be like a barn, always that sort of barn-shaped house. I believe in most of North America, this is what's called a Dutch colonial style house. You'll see these everywhere. So which one that can work for like, for just about any place in like any place, like if it's like a suburbs, like inner suburbs, a rural area, it'll be good. I do believe that this one will. This is one where I do believe it does get you do have significantly more fancy variants that you can get like as you get richer. Yeah, this is like a level 4 version of that home. And that's pretty good. Yeah. And there's too much I have to say about that one. That's all good. I like it. I should note that unlike the American and the most notable thing is that unlike the American free wide low density, that will only spawn if it's 4 deep or larger. And now we have let's find the EU 4 wide buildings, which are a bit hard to, which can be a bit hard to zone in, as you might have seen in the last one. But here is the 4 wide low density EU house at level 1. It's pretty, it's like it looks kind of like the other ones. As you can see, it's the same. It's got a flat roof, sort of modern look, sort of a little bit like cheapish. And I do think it's like the other ones where it's a thing that doesn't necessarily have like a distinct like identity to it, but it can fit just about. But it can probably fit anywhere, and it's not going to like stand out necessarily. So we'll find and for a second I'll just find like a higher level one of those. Be the EU 4-wide model for level 3 and 4. As you can see, it's got it's getting pretty fancy here. The warp terrain is kinda doing things, but as you can see, it's got two stories, a fully attached garage. Nice, pretty nice porch here where with nice glass windows. This could work for like waterfront housing. Could work for like waterfront housing too, as well as honestly all the other like EU home, as well as like the other like 2-wide EU homes. They all have like windows in a place where you could really see it be. Or you could like see them being facing backwards to the water or facing forwards to the water. Yeah. And so now we have, and honestly, I do think that one could actually kind of work if you were like trying to pass it off as like, even if it was like in a poor area, because like if it's actually that big, you could pass it off as like a multiplex or something. Like, it looks big. It looks just big enough to fit for that. And here's the level 5 like EU 4-wide. This house is, oh, okay. I know it looks a little weird. Not really like inviting at all, but it's hard again, hardly bad, just, and it still doesn't stand out like aggressively or anything. It's just okay. So yeah, I think that on average, like the EU housing is going to be low density. It almost has a lot more of like I'd say, okay, both of them have a lot of like modernist style homes, but I think that like with the EU, it almost seems, a lot of these almost seem like less distinctive in a way, and so it does have a thing where, unlike the NA theme, they don't necessarily have like you really don't get too much of a sense of place, but again, some of the ones with the NA theme kind of struggle in that the sense of place is really inconsistent. Like, you have the homes that look like these, which all look like sort of thing you see in like a rural area, like a sort of lower income place, a trailer park, or like maybe like a place on like floodplains or something. Like, yeah, like I remember like before I got the game, I was actually thinking of an area around, of like making a city, just an area around a city that would look sort of like the Navassa like township that's near Wilmington, because they thought this housing could, or just sort of like around, that's sort of like a place like Navassa, because I guess the housing just sort of fits like the vibe I've seen like when driving past some of those areas. But the thing is, it's gonna grow up to look like this, and that just has like a completely different like theme to it. And it just feels frustrating. Couldn't they just make like a, yeah, you could just sort of, I mean, if you wanted to make a progression of this, you could have just like a sort of two-story house that has like the two-sided roof, and that wouldn't stand out too much either, and just has maybe like you like have the parking under it because it's up on stilts or something, and then you know it just kind of feels like NA theme has some good buildings but doesn't work well when leveled. Well, EU it's like a lot of it just I guess the EU is just generally better as like a main theme, like if you're just going to be zoning a lot here. And although some of these a lot smaller like EU buildings, I would say those have like an identity. They do have sort of like an identity with them, and I guess when I go on to like talk about how I'm actually like building ways you can build suburbs, then I probably should discuss those a little bit more. Yeah. So I guess it's all kind of an issue where this wouldn't be as much of an issue if the game had launched with access to the Steam Workshop, but it did not have. But we do not have access to the Steam Workshop. We got a trailer for like the asset pack, which are going to have things for like all sorts of reasons, and that was like 3 months ago. Well, no, not 3 months ago. At least 2 or more months ago. My memory's fucked. But it's been a lot. But we still aren't really know when those are going to be coming. We don't know when like the beach sort of properties pack is going to be coming either. Now we just kind of stuck with these, and it's just not a thing, and none of these really look natural. And then it's kind of a shame because I do like almost all of the other like assets in the game. Like I've usually used like the North American theme for the city since it is supposed to be set in North America, and they all have this really good sort of like historic, kind of like an almost historical, sort of like a. They don't look like too specific to any reason, but they have this sort of like historical vibe to them. Well, not really historical. It's just sort of like an older town vibe. Lots of like tons of brick buildings. And they do get a little bit, and they do get kind of fancier as like they level up, but not too, but only fancier in the way that they look sort of like slightly more modernized construction. They still sort of look just sort of like they still always have this sort of recognizable like North American vibe to them. And just especially one of my favorite parts is like the low density commercial, because previously you'd get all these really awkward like and almost really ugly looking like buildings, but now low density commercial, this just looks like any store you'd find just off the side of a
You're tuned into Second Moon, the channel where the classics
like the NA or EU theme.
A housing shortage is driving up prices in the area.
That's right, Glenda. But
so,
apparently,
I guess for now, I guess that's probably a good summary of like what the low density NA and EU.
Welcome, Professor.
And EU
so a
themes
housing
so I guess
shortage
next
is
I'm going to talk
bad
about
for the
like
people
tract
trying to move
housing.
here, right?
Humans are programmed
and sort of like
to
how you
desire
can design
certain representations
suburbs and
within
stuff.
ideological reward structures, which are entirely apart from the actual rewards enjoyed.